we'll do the live thing first. Like, hey everybody, welcome back to the Bigmark podcast. It's me, your host, Bigmark. If it's your first time watching, welcome. If not, welcome back. Like I always say, if you ever wanted to reach out to the podcast, let us know if you have a topic in mind, or, you want to, let us know if you want to even come on the podcast. I mean, if you watched one of our last episodes with my buddy, Ian Hanchek, he would have told you that works because, hey, he reached out and he got on. So again, I want everyone on. If I haven't asked you, it's not because I don't want you on. We just got to figure out a time. It's always funny. A lot of times I'm doing these kind of, relatively last minute. So it's not like, I shouldn't say last minute. The way I've scheduled it is that I'm doing the podcast as close as I can do it to the date that I'm releasing it, just in case like something topical comes up, or, I want to talk about something fresh. I like to be able to kind of release it, a la South Park, which I guess in essence is last minute, but again, so sometimes it's hard to schedule it in, but if we work it out, like Ian and I did, it only took us 5 or 6 months, but we'll figure it out. So again, hit us up in the DMs, hit us up in the comments, like and subscribe to the channel, do all those great things. Is the best way you can support the podcast, especially doing what you're doing right now, listening and watching, and thank you for being here. And if you want to go that extra step, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/bigmarkpod, and spread the word. Let your friends know, and we'll grow this great community, because I know at least all my friends that are watching and listening all come from varied backgrounds. So if I can be that middle hub, I'm happy to do it. And it was kind of funny. My buddy Nick Evans, a friend of the podcast, was well, like I said, he was on the podcast. I mean, it's a couple months ago now, but him and I were kind of just chatting the other day, and he was kind of telling me about this new game he was playing. I kept seeing him on his phone, and I was going, hey, what game are you playing there? And he was like, oh, it's this Pokemon card game that you can play on your phone. Like, you should check it out. And I'm like, man, like, I don't know. Seems interesting. I never really got into the card game. Like, right away, I was like, all right, that's cool. But you really got into it, and me and my buddies at work, shout out to Scarpman Labs, Kvike the world. Anyway, we've kind of been like, close to, the Pokemon realm, if you will. I have my little Nintendo SP at work that I bring in, and I rip that and play that. And then, I also have, like a couple cards actually. It was kind of funny, when I was like looking and just kind of looking around my apartment. This is kind of what sparked the idea of the podcast for tonight. I was kind of looking around. I have these copies of the Berserk manga. I have these like Pokemon cards everywhere. And I started cursing Nick Evans to this guy, and I said, this is the weeb that I never wanted to turn into. But I guess we all have a little weeb inside us. I got the Berserk, I got the Pokemon cards, and we're ready to get freaky. But I was like, oh man, what have I become? But it's pretty interesting. Again, this it's all kind of stemmed from the Pokemon card game, the app. And, I when I was first kind of getting into, the app and just getting used to it, it was pretty fun. Like, it's like the card game aspect of Pokemon I never really got into, or as it's colloquially known as Pokemon TCG, or the trading card game. I never really got into it too much, just because when me and my buddies first started playing it, like, we had some of the cards at school, like guys would bring cards in, there's the classic people trading cards that they shouldn't have been, or like, giving away unbelievable cards now. Like, I'm sure some kids kick themselves. Fuck, maybe I've even done it and I can't remember, but having a sick card, a first edition Charizard or whatever, I don't know all the amazing cards out there, but really rare Pokemon cards that were from my generation, which was, I believe, the first generation of Pokemon cards. They were originally published in Japan in 1996. So I was 5 when these were coming out. So I was like right in the demo that these were kind of being released to, at least in the younger portion of the demographic. And we started buying the cards. Our moms and family members would buy us little packs. We'd go into comic book stores. I mean, it was a cool way to get us into comic book stores. I wish I looked at the comics now, the way I feel about comics anyway. But, it kind of encouraged this whole other world that it was existing and these interesting cards. And I mean, it did predate the video game, or actually no. So I'm just going to look up. Again, I always wish my buddy, shout out Christian Nobbin, I haven't seen you in a while, brother, but I wish you were still here as our producer, because it always looks weird when I'm like, all right, let me pull that shit up, Jamie. Pokemon video game. So the very first Pokemon, I guess it was green technically. The first games, Pocket Monster Red and Green, technically, were released in 96. So it was all this kind of major package that came out that was all kind of introduced to my generation. It was like, we got the cards, we got the games, and I think they started coming out with toys shortly after. But all these things started kind of coming out. So I gravitated more towards the video game, the handheld on the Game Boy. I gravitated towards that. I never really considered myself a major gamer. Maybe in some ways I shy away from it. I've kind of seen maybe the dark sides of it, or the video games that I've always loved and enjoyed were the ones that you could play together in a room. Madden, this is before all this online stuff. I mean, maybe if I was more into the online stuff, I could kind of get behind it, but just being in a room, the social aspect of gaming, Mario Kart, racing games in general, Mario Party, all those games where you can all play. Everyone's got a controller. Everyone's involved. Those are the games that are fun. So, but for whatever reason, I loved it. I mean, again, it was kind of like scientifically marketed directly towards my generation, but I just loved it. The way the game was, there was a collecting aspect of it. And then there was also the battling and like how you progressed through the game as well. And people have gone in amazing ways. And I've done a podcast on kind of Pokemon in general and more about the game, because that's what the video game, because that's what I knew about. But the whole Pokemon card game aspect, I just never really understood or got into. And again, you kind of have to buy a lot of card packs, and there are larger decks you can get to kind of build up a deck that you can then actually battle with and do all that stuff. But just me and my buddies just never really got into it. It just wasn't our thing. We didn't get down with it. We kind of still had the cards and collected them and such. I have the binders right over here, but of some of the cards that I kept. But that was the thing where it was almost like the real life version of that, where there was the video games and then there was the cards. And then even in the card game, there's the collecting aspect, where you're trying to get these cool cards, these rare cards. But then some of those rare cards are actually good cards within the game, or not. But you can also collect cards to play the game and how you play it and how you build up your deck. Because generally speaking, I can really only speak for the app itself that I've been playing, which is, from what I understand, a kind of a truncated version of Pokemon the card game. So, don't rake me over the coals here for not knowing all the ins and outs of the card game. But the one you can play on your phone is 20 cards in a deck. So you can kind of set yourself up pretty well. And 20 cards isn't all that hard to remember. So you almost can kind of count the cards in your head, or whatever the ones that are up right now, you can kind of imagine what's going to be next. I mean, there's always 20 cards is still 20 cards, but pretty sure the official card game, you can have 60 cards in your deck. There's all that things. I mean, shoot, let's pull that shit up, Jamie. We live in a world where we can, because my buddy Chris from work, he plays the same game that we're essentially playing on our phone. He plays on his laptop, which has a lot more, the online version has a lot more it's a lot more involved. So again, 60 cards in a deck. So it's a little harder to remember, but you can kind of do way more things than you can kind of do. Because like I said, it's a little bit of a truncated game. It's always one-on-one. So yeah, so the original card game that you're playing with the physical cards are 60 cards in a deck. It's only 2 players. Playing time 2 to 120 minutes. And then there's like you flip coins and do all kinds of different shit like that too. But in the app, your energy systems, which are what kind of power your Pokemon's moves, they are auto-generated and they just kind of pop up. So that is part of the strategy when you're playing the game, is you kind of have to understand how those energies are coming up, how those energies are created. And that's the funny thing about the game, right? It's just like it's like any card game or any game, you kind of understand the rules of it and then you can kind of, work your way around it. But because it has this collectible aspect of it too, it's pretty interesting. It has this whole system of opening packs within it, and kind of like you get almost the same feeling as when you're actually opening a physical pack. And funny enough, there are, TikTok accounts like Deep Pocket Monsters, and he used to be like a lawyer or something, so he has like a ton of money, so he's just like living everyone's dream and like spending $200 on an unopened pack from 1996 or whatever, from fucking 2000 whatever. And again, it's just this weird rush, this weird kind of like vicarious rush, and it's harmless in that way. And me here on the and the way I am and how we roll here on the Bigmark podcast, I like to check these things out. I'm a immersive journalist, right? I like to try to get into the fucking system. I like to try to live those ways to truly kind of, understand how these things work, right? And yes, I might be a nerd, but fuck, I'm living like one, I guess. I don't know. I'm living like a doctor, like Joey Diaz would say. But I don't know. Tell me if this would be cool. Maybe I shouldn't even say this because someone's going to steal his idea. Should I open Pokemon packs to Joey Diaz clips? Yes or no? Let me know. It might be too racy because it's like children shit and adult, but maybe I can say, and I also don't want to spend all that money on fucking Pokemon cards. So help me find a way to do that though. I want to merge those two things. I don't know why. I think the juxtaposition would be funny. Anyway, but yeah, like I said, it's a really interesting game. You kind of learn these ways, and you kind of learn how these Pokemon interact, this, that, and the other. And it's kind of really interesting in the sense that the way I knew how Pokemon worked was through the video game, right? So it's very, very different really how the mechanics of both those things work. Admittedly, they've kind of captured a lot of the same vibrations and everything. I mean, every Pokemon card at least, most of them have an ability. Most of them have like an attack, which takes up a certain amount of energy. So you have energy cards. Each one is worth 1, or some are multiple energy cards. But as you add more energy cards to your Pokemon, you're able to, if you have the same amount of energy that is required for that attack, you can then use that attack against your opponent's Pokemon. And in the video game, you kind of just have all that energy. You don't have to worry about like adding energies, whatever. Yes, you have like PP or whatever, the points that you can use for the actual moves, power points. I don't know what PP actually stands for, but anyway, it's like the amount of times you can actually use that move are limited in the game. So I guess it's somewhat the same in this, or it's like you have to do so many moves to be able to use the move, right? So you kind of see that game theory there, I guess, if you want to call it that. Not to put too fine a point on it, but again, each Pokemon is going to have this attack, and then you can use it against your opponent's Pokemon. The attack might actually do something to another Pokemon, or it might like create a new energy for you to use, or things like that. So these cards can actually interact with each other in that way. One of the things that does cross over between the game and the cards, the video game and the card game, is like you can evolve Pokemon. As your turn, once a turn, you can evolve that one single Pokemon, and then again it then assumes all these new abilities and all the same things on this card, right? So it's kind of fun. And then again, you have this whole collecting aspect too, right? And it's not just to collect it to play, but some people collect it and like there's cards going for thousands of dollars. I'm pretty sure, and I think I mentioned this in the last podcast, like what's the most expensive Pokemon card? The most expensive Pokemon was Illustrator Pikachu from 1998. Yeah, but how much was it? All right, the 10 most expensive and rarest cards. Maybe let's... What are we doing here? Give me some price points. So we got a signed Charizard. Yeah, okay, whatever. What about like just regular ones? So the first edition Shadowless holographic Charizard, like I was talking about, came out in 1999. Was auctioned for $420,000. $420,000. And the most expensive one on this list, I think this is the one that Logan Paul, sorry. $5,275,000. So that broke the world record. So there's some money in it, kids. But maybe not necessarily where you want to put all your money. But, and it's, again, it's this whole, gambling thing. There's a risk, I guess you're assuming, yes, these cards aren't insanely expensive. Anyone can buy them and any pack it happens, it's the, Willy Wonka gimmick, any one of these packs might have the golden ticket in it, if you will. Now, that is also based on the condition of the card. You always have to take that into account too. So when if you want to sell a card or you want to get into this whole racket, you have to get them graded, which means you're actually sending them into a service that looks at the card, looks at how it was created, because it's not only just the actual card that, the Pokemon that's represented on that card, it's how nice the card is. It's what condition it's in, is how it was actually printed, is everything lined up properly, And that will also determine how nice a card it is, which can severely, severely change how much a card is worth. Like I'm talking, from a mint 10. So that's like the best 10 out of 10, the best, like literally gem mint, like from the factory. Like it's like it came out the pack and you're the only person to ever touch it and it was mint. It could be $1,000 to something that's graded even at an 8. Could be like $5. Like I'm talking crazy. And it does cost to actually get these graded too, right? Like these services, you have to, they have to pay for the services. So if you go in there and you don't know when you're sending the card in, you can't really tell. I mean, you'd hope maybe you go to your local card shop and they could tell you, hey brother, like this ain't worth sending in. Like it's a piece of shit. But that's the other funny thing, is that some of them that are weird or have defects and shit, other companies will grade that, and then you can actually sell that as like kind of like a whimsical thing. So I have something called a washing machine Blastoise, which means my buddy actually put his Blastoise through the washing machine. He's like, I don't even want it anymore. It makes me sad. And he's like, do you want it? I was like, fuck, I'll keep it. And like, who knows? Maybe I'll just get that put under fucking plastic, and they just like put it in a little plastic thing, and it, it shows at the top how official all this shit is. And just, put it away, because who knows? Maybe that'll be like a novelty when all the nice cards are taken up. People start looking for the weird shit, right? So, yeah, super, super interesting. I've been really having fun playing the game. It does challenge you a little bit in a way of kind of, but, I do see where maybe some of my hesitation was, around the game, just because, I feel more drawn to my phone than ever, like, because I want to play this fucking game. I'm kind of like, dude, like, I'm not really down. But fuck. It's fun. Well, maybe there's something to that. Go and have some fun and release some dopamine through these fucking little means, right? Like, oh, it's kind of fun opening these card packs and working towards it and collecting all these little things. It's free and it's fucking fun. So who knows? Maybe they're tracking us down, following our moves, or distracting us at least with this fucking shit. But whoever they are. But again, it's fun. You know, I kind of got into it. I don't want to burn out on it. I don't want it to be like kind of a hyperfixation where I just rip. And again, maybe that's like I just said, maybe that's where my hesitation was with this whole thing, right? Where maybe that's why I say, oh, I don't play video games. I mean, I don't like them. So I don't really play them is because I know I'll fucking just play it crazy. Because that's what happened with Pokemon. That's what happened with the very, very few games that I've ever tried to play solo dolo. And that's why I like to do with friends, because, you know, you can't fucking do that all day, all forever, and you need your friends there, and that's fine. Like, they're not with you all the time. So it gives you that that opportunity to be doing your own thing. So anyway, it's fun. It's a video game. It's good for you. It works the brain a little bit. I mean, I got to pick up some of those games that my buddy Buns plays too. He plays like, you know, crossword shits and, you know, connections and Wordle and things like that. So maybe I got to get back into the old brain teasers too, just to even out the playing field and go full berserk Pokemon nerd. Anyway, I hope this was fun. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're into the game, let me know. If you know about cards, if you need some shit, if you want to fucking play against each other, let's have fun. But anyway, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you next week. Go catch them all. Go collect them all. Whatever they say. Cheers. Peace.